What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who don't know, my name is Samson, and in today's video I'm going to be taking you guys through the process that I use for porting cylinder heads. Now, I do have a set of HR cylinder heads from a VQ35HR. I am going to be installing them on my DE. Most of you guys may know already, I do have a 06 Nissan Maxima. It has been bored and stroked to 4.1 liters. We do have forged internals. We do have cams right now, even though they are just drop-in cams. Ended up making right around 330 horsepower, so we're going to do our best to try to get over that 400 mark. In order to do that, we do have a set of aftermarket cams coming from JWT, Jim Wolf Technology, up there in California. And I did go ahead and decide to get these HR heads, which flow a lot higher than the VQ35DE heads that I currently have on the vehicle. The process that I use for porting these heads, as you can see, I do have the exhaust ports already ported right here. This is what it looks like originally. I know it's a little dark right now, so it's hard to see. But if you look at the both of them, you can tell these ports right here are bigger and, of course, more uniform than the ones that came just with the cast aluminum. Now, one thing that is important to note about porting is you don't want to do too much overboard, because not only do you run the possibility of possibly cutting through the actual port and into your water jackets, but you can also lose a lot of air velocity if you have too big of a port on your heads. Now, if you're running boost, whether it's turbocharging, supercharging, doesn't matter. If you're running boost, or if you have an NA car that's going to be high RPMs like mine is, then it's not going to matter as much, because you want all that power at the high RPM anyway. And so when you're forcing as much air as you're going to be forcing into the engine, the velocity that you're able to maintain really won't matter. The only thing that you'll feel a bit of a detriment in is going to be your low RPM. You're going to have a little bit less torque, a little bit less power, but you should be able to regain that at the high RPM. One thing that I do is I normally put the gasket up here to try to sort of measure out about how big I want the opening of the port to be. As you can see, these mount just flush or just a little bit bigger than the gasket. Of course, unless you go with a custom gasket, you can't really go much bigger on a port job than the actual gasket will allow for. You can see with this one right here, you can see it is touching right here on the bottom, a little bit on the sides. And so whenever I go in and I port, I make sure that it's going to be bigger overall where the gasket actually meets up to the actual port itself. On the other side of the heads, which would be the intake side right here, as you can see, I have already ported this portion of it. I do have the valves out because I am going to have to flip this upside down and go in and port that bottom portion as well. I do have the other set of heads on the inside that I'll show you guys in a second that are already fully ported. The only thing I need to do to those really is just to sand them up a little bit, sort of like even it out, try to smooth it out. What I end up doing is I use a die grinder. Just got this Hercules one from Harbor Freight. Now, you can actually go in and kind of use air powered one if you want to. There are some more expensive ones where you can actually go in and control the speed in which it's turning. But what you're going to want to do for aluminum heads especially is get you a carbide bit like this one. As you guys can see, if it'll focus, mine is almost played out. Might be able to get through this last set of heads with it. And then if I have to do anything else, I'll have to get a different bit. These bits right here are not specifically for cutting aluminum, but they're more so used towards cutting aluminum because the flutes on them are a lot bigger than your cross-cut bits. So these have the ability to cut the aluminum a lot quicker. They don't gunk up as much whenever you're cutting. So that ends up being a very, very big positive. Let me go show you guys the other set of heads so that you can see generally what it looks like whenever the whole process is basically complete. All right, guys. And so here are the other set of heads that I have basically completely finished. As you guys can see, those ports look a lot deeper and a lot cleaner. It's hard to actually get to the portion where the valves are unless you're doing it from the bottom side, simply because of how long these runners are on the intake side of things. As you guys can see on the exhaust side of things, it's a little bit easier to get to where the valves are, where that little split that knife edge split section that I have is. So what I'll do is I'll go in, try to clean these up just a little bit sanding wise, to try to make them a little bit smoother. Especially when you're doing this stuff by hand, it's a little bit more difficult to go in and get it as evenly as a CNC machine would do it. Nevertheless, you guys can see these do look really, really good. They should be able to flow a lot of air. My car is probably going to be turning at right around, I would say right around 8,000 RPM. One thing that I should show you guys is right here, I do have the actual, let me see if I can get it to focus. I do have a little bit of clearance cut out because I am going with some bigger cams, and JWT does recommend that you actually go in and clearance your heads for the cams so that they'll fit without any clearance issues. So as you guys can see, I did have to go in, cut a little bit right here, a little bit right here, as well as some on the edge of the head and on this opening right here as well. And so I should be able to fit those cams, no problem. Now, one thing that I did want to show you guys that I did sort of last minute was go in and try to do a little bit more relief for where my valves are. Now, this shouldn't mess with the compression ratio all that much. It might drop by 0.1 of a point or so. However, the deshrouding of the valves should allow the air to come out of this area just a little bit more easily. Right around this area, it was just straight right along the edge of the valve. So in some cases, especially whenever you're pushing a lot of air through the head, so what'll happen is the air will come through, it'll hit this edge right here, and then sort of bounce back up. What you want to do is just go ahead, have the air come out and go up into the valve as smoothly as possible. And so with this setup, with the deshrouding of the valves a little bit, you should be able to maintain a pretty good compression ratio and also flow a little bit more air through those valves as well. But just like that, guys, hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about the ports, you know, how much power you think they'll make. I might end up getting them flow tested. I'm not entirely sure if I want to spend the money to get them flow tested yet. I just probably might finish porting them and just go with it. I mean, because even if they flow test not what I'm up to, I'm probably still going to run them anyway. So let me know what you guys think about the port job. There's a lot of videos online on porting if you want to actually see the process. In order for me to do it, it would have taken a little bit more time to show you guys. I would have had to get the whole setup right. It would have been throwing metal all over my phone and everything. I didn't really want to have to go through that, but hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But just like that, guys, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.